During the early 2000s, we would see a wave of generational players coming from the top end of the drafts. Danny freaking Heatley, oh my god, Ryan Whitney, the 2003 NHL draft as a whole, followed up by the Ovechkin draft, and then Sidney Crosby. And in 2006, we would see history made, as Erik Johnson would be selected first overall from the United States Development Program. Johnson would then make the interesting decision to play 1 year in the NCAA, something that is extremely uncommon for a first overall pick, but evidently can prove wonders for development, as you are not being thrown to the wolves in your rookie season. And in his rookie season, Johnson would impress. 33 points in 69 games, showing the two-way upside as a potential top pairing defenseman. Except, and I'm not even joking, following his rookie season, Erik Johnson would derail his entire NHL career. Because after having perhaps one too many drinks at the golf course, Erik Johnson would crash his golf cart after his foot got stuck between the gas pedal and the brake, which would result in him tearing his MCL and ACL. A devastating hockey injury, and the same injury I personally got in my final year of hockey. And although it is possible to come back strong, this injury requires knee reconstruction in months, if not years, of physiotherapy. Thus, Erik Johnson would miss the entirety of the 2008-2009 season. But with that, Erik Johnson was still young and rebounded really well the next season with 39 points in 79 games. But the thing is, although doctors said he would be back to 100%, your knee will never be the same. And take it from me, as I personally went through this. Because when you blow out one knee, it causes you to overstress your other knee from relying on it too much, which can cause ligament issues in your other knee. So now you have two bad knees. So on top of the fact it set his development back by an entire year, which will surely have consequences, Erik Johnson would repeatedly have more knee issues throughout his entire career, including in 2015, where he would once again require knee reconstruction. And yes, Erik Johnson has had a respectable NHL career, but many people think he was a disappointing first overall pick. But you have to wonder, how would his career turned out if he didn't crash that golf cart? And you know what? This wasn't even the end of this 2006 draft story, because 8 picks later, the Minnesota Wild would draft James Sheppard, a high-end scoring center wing. Because after having a rough time adjusting to the NHL level, Sheppard was still showing glimpses of stardom. 19 points in his first season, 24 points the next. However, and I'm not even joking, James Sheppard would crash his ATV, and just like Erik Johnson, would sustain a serious knee injury, which was supposed to be 3 to 4 months of a recovery timeline, but ended up taking over 2 years. 2 entire seasons for Sheppard to get back on NHL ice. But the thing is, the NHL has a very serious clause in every contract that prohibits high-risk activities such as ATVing. And it makes sense, as this clause specifically targets activities that commonly injure people. And so in a billion-dollar league, that is way too much liability. Thus, the Wild had the ability to suspend Sheppard that entire time, which meant he wouldn't earn a penny of his contract, which was over $800,000. A lot of money for someone just entering the league, for infringing on the high-risk activity clause in his contract. And so after 2 years of rehabilitation, Sheppard would return. However, he was not the same player. He would bounce back and forth from the AHL and the San Jose Sharks. And in 2014, he would retire from the NHL altogether, where he's now been bouncing around European leagues. But for a player drafted 9th overall, with promising potential, this ATV accident was devastating to his career. The 2015 NHL draft will go down in history as one of the most stacked drafts the game will ever see. As not only was Connor McDavid the headliner, but every other pick in the first round developed into a star, if not a franchise player. Not to mention there was even draft steals, such as Kirill the Trio Kaprizov, who was drafted in the 5th round. And leading up to this draft, one name that was consistently among the top 5 was Matt Barzal, an unbelievable skater, hands of silk.
Delighted, got through, Barzal between his legs! Oh, Matt Barzal!
And a deep offensive toolbox. However, Matt Barzal would shockingly go from being regarded as a top 5 pick early in the season to being drafted at number 16, which would have been the Oilers pick if they hadn't traded it for, Griffin Reinhart. But that's another story, because the Islanders would land a gem. But it begs the question, why did Barzal, who was clearly bound for stardom, fall in this draft? Well, Matt Barzal in his draft year was reportedly wrestling with one of his teammates and would break his kneecap, which would cause him to miss a significant portion of the season. And so on top of his confidence making teams think he was cocky, Matt Barzal would fall to 16. So flash forward to today. Matt Barzal is a fascinating player, as he is a top skater, a top offensive player in the league, yet he plays in a strict Islanders system, which doesn't allow him to fully utilize his skills. Now, don't get me wrong, for a team who works as hard as the Islanders and grinds for every win, having this system is commendable, but it does beg the question, would Matt Barzal be a 100-point guy year after year in a different system? Because if it wasn't for him wrestling with his teammate, there's not a chance Barzal falls to 16. The 2016 class of free agency was a disaster. You get 36 million. You get 36 million. Louis Eriksson, Milan Lucic, David Backes, Andrew Ladd, and the list goes on and on. All signing near franchise-ruining contracts. And someone else who was unfortunately on that list was Kyle Okposo. However, in a recent Spin Chicklets interview, Okposo would discuss an incident that, to me at least, was mind-blowing, because after lighting it up with the Islanders alongside of John Tavares, Okposo would see instant regression year after year with the Sabres. Now, he was still a solid 20-goal, 45-50 point player, which was disappointing given his $42 million contract, but Okposo was still a serviceable player. That was until, after sustaining a neck injury, Okposo would start his rehab process on the ice. And during a drill, Okposo would receive a routine hit from William Carrier. However, his head would hit the boards in an awkward position. And what happened next was eye-opening, as Okposo would quote that aside from game day anxieties, Okposo hadn't experienced any of the extremes, like depression or perhaps debilitating anxiety. In the second his head hit those boards,
head hit the glass, for people that are listening, it just hit the glass sideways. Something happened in my brain where it just completely switched how I was thinking and how I was processing. And so I went into this mode of like, I need to fix everything. I need to fix Buffalo. I need to fix the Sabres. I need to fix every relationship in my life. I need to do all these things, and I couldn't stop. And so I couldn't sleep.
It was like a little manic almost.
I was manic. That's what it was.
Wow.
A switch flicked in his head, and Kyle Okposo instantly became manic and had a serious case of depression, as he would even mention that he went on a manic spree of trying to fix everything in his life, trying to single-handedly fix the Buffalo Sabres. He experienced insomnia and couldn't sleep for weeks at a time. And this leads to a serious discussion about concussions and why the NHL has been so strict on things such as head contact, because it can physically change the way your brain is wired and lead you down a path of having severe mental health issues. And by no surprise, Kyle Okposo would see the lowest production in his entire hockey career the following seasons, as he would regress to 29 points, 19 points the next season, and 13 points the next, all because of a life-changing head injury sustained from a practice hit. And I am so happy that Okposo has opened up about his story, as this emphasizes why us fans don't have a damn clue to why players are performing a certain way. And not until this past season has Okposo actually been back on track, as he would rebound with a 20-goal season and expects to improve upon this next year on an exciting up-and-coming Buffalo team. And I'll be honest guys, the story hit me pretty hard, as this isn't something I've been overly open about, but this past year I experienced just a horrible case of burnout. I was working 40 hours a week at my marketing career, 40 hours a week on YouTube, doing full-time university for 3 years straight, and last summer I just hit a wall. I had debilitating anxiety from overworking myself, which led me to having very similar symptoms to Okposo, and it took me a long time to get back on track. Now, I quit my job this previous year, which really helped, but most importantly, accepting what happened, accepting that my mental health wasn't fully in check, and seeking help from expert doctors and being open with my family really allowed me to go on a path of self-betterment. Because before this burnout, I didn't even comprehend what anxiety or depression was. Now, of course, you hear lots of people talking about it. That's all over the place now. But unless you experience it firsthand, you just don't truly understand. And even though the situation was very shitty for myself, I am super grateful that it did allow me to understand how mental health affects people. So for any of my viewers who do leave those positive comments, I do want to say that it truly helped me get through that dark time. And for anybody who's experiencing anything similar, do not be afraid to ask for help. And sorry for ending off this video so serious, but just know I'm doing great now, and I'm just forever in debt to the RTH audience for the support you guys give me.
Eric Johnson.
Erik Johnson.